Hey, and welcome back. Today I want to tell you the 7 reasons why I left the United States. And I'll also share with you why, after all my world travels to over 55 countries, I ended up here in the Philippines. But first, let me explain where I'm at. I'm outside a new home that I just moved into, my third home in 7 months. Our last video, we gave a tour here. If you're interested, and a little bit of a look at our budget. And today, since I'm going to talk to you about why I left the United States, the 7 reasons, you're going to want to know a little bit about my current budget as well. Stick around. Check out this view. We're up here on the top of the Cagayan De Oro River Valley. Anyway, reason number 1, inflation and the cost of living in America. It was just really difficult for a retirement. After getting divorced, my financial stability and retirement savings were not in the shape that I'd hoped they would be. And I wanted to find a place where my money could go farther, where I could arbitrage my income better. Living in America, Social Security and a small corporate pension was very, very difficult to make ends meet. And housing in particular was challenging. If you held on to your home, you had way too much house. Once a month the grandchildren would come visit maybe. Way too much house, way too expensive. Utilities, rent, mortgage payments, way too much house. And then I didn't want to move into a retirement home. In general, the cost of living in America is just sky high. And, if you need to be there to earn an income, if you need to be close to your job, 20 minutes to the office, a high paying job, it all makes sense. You want your kids in the best schools. You want your kids on the best swim team. You need to be there. But once you retire and you become divorced and single, the economics, they really don't add up. The transportation costs are crazy. You're having to drive everywhere. It's a car culture. I lived in Arizona. You had to drive everywhere. I ended up getting an electric bike. I have it in storage now back in Arizona, but I started to ride my electric bike 6 days a week and only go visit the grandchildren on Sunday. But for me, I decided to travel when I retired at 62. So 5 years ago, I retired and I started traveling the world 5 to 6 months a year. So the house would be left empty. I'd go away for 2 to 3 months. I'd feel divorced from all my relationships back home, and I'd go travel the world. And I found that you could travel the world and live a very good life for not too much money. There's lots of these YouTube channels that say you can do it for $1,000. Well, that's a little unrealistic if you keep your health insurance in America. That alone can cost $400 a month between Medicare Part A and B and a supplemental before you even get on the plane to go anywhere. So when you calculate your airfare to Asia, your airfare to South America, and your other costs, it's very difficult to do for under $1,000 a month. But if you're just traveling from one destination to the next, you could maybe do it because you just have to take a bus to the next country. But if you have healthcare insurance, it's going to be very challenging. $1,500 though, you could do it. So what I found was I was traveling the world, but maintaining a house in America made it very, very difficult to be traveling half a year. And I learned that I could be happy without a lot of material possessions. And I didn't mind being away for 2 or 3 months at a time. I missed my family, but I found that the world was very exciting and it had a lot to offer. And eventually, I looked at the cost of living, the cost of maintaining a home, the cost of utilities, the cost of maintaining a car insurance. It was just too expensive to have the type of life that I wanted. I saw a lot of people my age, they moved out to these retirement communities. They sort of just dialed it down. It's like getting ready to die. They golfed, but they didn't do much else, and they couldn't really travel. When you're paying for a house, you're paying for an apartment, you have car insurance, you have other responsibilities, utilities. It's really hard to go away for more than a few weeks at a time. Yeah, you could save up, take a cruise here, take a cruise there, but most of the time you're living at home. And it's not a bad life, but it just wasn't a life for me. So, the cost of eating out, when you're retired, just shopping and eating at home, it's not really that exciting. It doesn't feel like you're on vacation. It doesn't feel like you're retired. It doesn't feel like you're thriving. And I found myself, shopping at Costco and, trying to save money on groceries to make the dollar go really, really far, and eating at home a lot because the restaurant meals in America have just gotten ridiculously expensive. Alcohol is crazy if you drink outside the house. And, it just got to be too much. The cost of an Uber went up 50% during COVID. And to get to the airport went from like $40 to a $65 Uber ride one way to the airport. And then you have your HOA fees, and every time you buy something, you got to pay, 8% sales tax, other taxes. So in general, after a recent round of inflation, I found that just the cost of living and the burden of maintaining property and a place to live in America was something that didn't appeal to me anymore. There was more downsides than upsides. So the biggest thing about cost and why I decided to leave America is the cost of housing. Elsewhere in the world, Puerto Vallarta, the turquoise coast of Turkey, on the islands in Greece even, where it's more expensive, Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines, the cost of housing can be 1/3, 1/4 of what you would pay. I just moved into a house here. This is the pool complex behind me. The same house in California with a view like we have here might cost 10 times as much. And so if you want to arbitrage your pension, you're going to save a fortune on your cost of housing, and the quality of life can be really, really good. We found a place we don't actually use air conditioning. So that's the number one reason why I moved, was just the inflation and the cost. It didn't allow your budget to go far enough, and there wasn't enough budget to travel the way I wanted to travel the world and maintain property or maintain a house back in America. First reason, inflation and overall cost. The second reason, the cost of housing is particular. The third reason, I started to feel isolated in America. My retirement didn't involve golfing with 10 people. It didn't involve a poker group every week. I didn't find my place. I wasn't playing shuffleboard. I didn't have a gaggle of friends. I was leaving the country for 2 to 3 months at a time, traveling with a long-term girlfriend. And when I came back, I had managed to kind of divorce myself from these friendships that I'd made at the club, at the athletic club, in the neighborhood. And I would slowly kind of reintegrate with some of these friends, but then I'd be off again in just another 10 weeks or 12 weeks and gone for 3 months. And it was really difficult for me to engage an active social life with other couples, with other male friends. I felt really, really isolated and kind of depressed. I spent a lot of time watching YouTube. That became my primary social connection. And what I saw was people living their best lives overseas, people managing to arbitrage their budgets mightily, and people with younger women living their best life. And that's what encouraged me to explore this opportunity and leaving the United States. The fourth reason that I left America was I felt that the politics became toxic. Family members started to squabble about politics. Neighbors started to squabble about politics. I was in a cafe, a Starbucks, and sitting outside on the patio just enjoying a cup of coffee, and I heard people speaking in extremist manner, expressing their politics, either racist or ultra-liberal. It didn't really matter to me. I wasn't interested in being involved in any kind of fight. I didn't want to fight about politics. I didn't want to fight with my neighbors. I didn't want to be asked my opinion about politics, and I certainly didn't want to have it get between me and my friends and me and my family members. And it seemed almost impossible to make it so that politics wasn't divisive. And I'm not sure what happened. I guess politics has always been somewhat divisive, somewhat tribal. It just seemed that it had become so extreme. And, I moved from Los Angeles where it had one extreme, and I moved from Los Angeles to Arizona. It had the other extreme. In Los Angeles, people just assumed you were ultra-liberal. In Arizona, people just assumed you were ultra-conservative. And more often than not, I was neither. It didn't really work for me. And I am someone who reads the news a lot and kind of feel like I had a lot of information. I was, reading a lot of newspapers and watching a lot of interesting facts about current events, but I couldn't engage. I didn't have people that I could engage with. It wasn't worth engaging in discussions about politics and current events and world peace and things like that. It just became a toxic environment, and I felt like the best way to get away from it was to simply get away from it. Here in the Philippines, it's against the law to get involved in politics, and very few of the expats here talk politics. And those who do, I tend to not spend a lot of time with. So speaking of housing prices, we just moved into this property last week. We pay roughly $900 per month, 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, overlooking this river valley. This same house in California would cost at least $8,000 to $10,000 a month with a view like this. Reason number 5 that I left the United States is the dating opportunities were just awful. You might be able to date somebody 10 years younger than yourself, but that's it. That's about, unless you had some serious cash, you're not dating anybody really more than 10 years younger than yourself. And then the selection was really slim. It was not a robust selection of candidates that you might date. And the cost of dating was so high. To go out to a decent restaurant, $150, $200. To go for a beach vacation to California, $2,000 for the weekend. Having to go to museums and gifting and the whole culture of dating in America. It was extremely expensive, and if you were in the process of dating over 6 months or a 1 year period, you could find yourself with some severe budget shortfalls. Just having to meet people for lunch and going out for coffee, going out for dates, and trying to be the person who's providing all these romantic opportunities to go sailing, to go to the movies, to go to the theater, to go out to entertaining opportunities every week, twice a week. Very, very expensive on a pension budget. So in addition to the cost, the selection of available women, where I was in Arizona, was very, very small. It wasn't like being in California where they had a large Asian population that you might find some women that were of interest. And in general, it was a problem. Reason number 6 is ageism in the West and in America in particular. Ageism is rampant, and it's one of those isms that, is maybe the last ism that people get away with. You can't fat shame people, but, everyone is being made fun of for their age and treated differently, and not always with great respect. More often ignored or looked down upon, or just generally ghosted. People are expected to go off and crawl into a corner. Their family sees them once a month, maybe twice a month. They get to play with their grandchildren. The rest of the time, they're just left to grow old and have their diseases advance and go visit their doctors and hang out with their old friends. It was a way of life that was not appealing to me when it came to being in my 60s. And when I was back in the country, back from travel, I didn't really like it at all, and I couldn't wait to get back out of the country. In other countries like the Philippines, age is something that is highly respected and revered. People are looked up to, treated in an amazing way, discounts, special lines. There's all sorts of opportunities. But in general, people who are older are considered to be wise and to be respected. In America, more often than not, you could be a victim of crime. You could be shunned. You could be avoided. You could be made fun of. In general, it's okay, but it wasn't really an ideal situation. And for me personally, I didn't have the taste for the type of ageism that I would have to face in America. Reason number 7 is America is a commercial, materialistic society. Everything is about keeping up with the Joneses and your material possessions, the car you drive, having a house full of appliances and the newest TV and the nicest everything. It was too much. I learned that I could live a life without materialism. I stopped watching television. I stopped watching sports on TV. That got me away from a lot of TV commercials. And I started watching primarily the internet and YouTube, and I paid for YouTube Red with no commercials. And often I could go months because Scottsdale, Arizona is one of like 3 or 4 communities communities in America that doesn't allow outdoor advertising. And so between no television commercials at home, no billboards or any signage outdoors when I was out biking or driving in Scottsdale, I could go like a month without seeing TV commercials. The one sport that I continued to follow was the World Cup. Every 2 years, I would be bombarded by television commercials when I signed up for World Cup TV, and I would want to buy, and I'd start buying things, and a month later I probably spent $2,000 on things I didn't need. And just to be exposed to the rampant capitalist, materialistic society was something that I decided I could do without. I didn't need it. I managed to get myself a little bit away from it, getting away from all the commercials, the need for the newest car, the need for the newest appliance, the need for a newer couch, everything newer. I didn't have the budget for it, and I wanted to get away from that. Okay, so those are the reasons why I left the United States. And, you know, where could I arbitrage my income the best? Where could I get a house like this? I traveled to approximately 60 countries in the last 5 years, and I spent a month at a time in many of these countries. The cost of living in Turkey was really reasonable. The turquoise coast of Turkey, really beautiful. I spent 2 months every year in Puerto Vallarta in a condo overlooking the Pacific Ocean. That was crazy nice, and I made a lot of good friends there. And I traveled all over Asia. I traveled South America, and I saw different opportunities. And why the Philippines? Well, you know, most people come to the Philippines for 3 reasons. It's really easy for your visa. You can stay 3 years without leaving the country. It's about $45 a month on average to maintain your visa for 3 years. The English is a big factor. Most Filipinos understand English. They read it. Most of them understand it when you speak to it. And a lot of the girls that are educated, work in call centers, can speak it really well also. So English language is a big plus. And then the Filipino people have this sweetness to them. When you combine it with the English language, you get that girlfriend experience that you don't often get somewhere else. You know, Thailand has slightly lower housing prices. It has beautiful Asian women, but it would be really difficult to know if your 35-year-old Thai woman had ever worked a second life, had ever had a job in Pattaya. It would be really difficult to figure that out. And it would be hard to meet a province girl who spoke English, and the language is a real difficulty, although I love the culture and I love the food. So the Philippines, your money goes really far, especially in housing. Now, there are other issues. There's noise pollution. I've talked about that. It's crazy. We moved now the 3rd time in 7 months to get away from the roosters and the dogs. I think we did it, but who knows for sure. And stay tuned. The rampant capitalism, it's not as much here. You know, people are simple, and it's a slower life, and they do with less, and they're happy with what they have, and you don't see that commercial advertising, and you're not expected to keep up with the Joneses here. I like that. The expat community here is very fulfilling. It's, you know, I have a better group of friends here than I did back in America. We have a lot in common. We're all here. We're all expats. It's very easy to bond. Nobody really talks about politics, and it's a great community, like an instant retirement friendship community is available to you. You have to make a little effort. You have to go out and attend events and spend a little bit of money on restaurants and bring in food to the parties, but it's pretty reasonable. It's not expensive, and it's a good to go retirement. If you love the beach, you love waterfalls, you love nature, this is the place. You're going to find it all here. We're able to live without air conditioning in this house because we're up at about 500-600 feet of elevation right on the river, and the breezes are insane, and who'd have thought that? The biggest reason is the Filipina. You know, if you can get lucky and you hit bingo, you gotta get lucky in terms of the girl you end up with and the house you end up living in. Those are two things. It's not like falling out of bed and you're going to meet the perfect Filipina. It's not like falling out of bed and you're going to find a rental property that doesn't have roosters and barking dogs and karaoke. It's not the way it works. There's lots of people, they got lucky right away and they think that's the way it works. But the way it works is you got to not give up. You got to keep moving if you don't have the right house. You have to keep changing and keep looking if you don't have the right girlfriend. You know, they're sensitive, they're sweet, they're beautiful. They're a little too sensitive. Sometimes they're a little too jealous, and they have a little bit of tampo. If you're willing to put up with that, I'm not. But if you are, you can deal with it. But you can say that you're not interested in it, and they'll work with you. But they're kind of sensitive. So with the good, you get a little bit of sensitivity from the women. They're really tied to their families. But if you find a girl from the province or someone with province values, they'll have a good family with province values, and it won't be a problem. So why the Philippines? Great weather, great people. Cost of living is amazing. They love Americans. They love Westerners. And, they're really sweet people. They don't always make the best neighbors with their dogs and their karaoke and their roosters. But in general, it's a very, very good society, and it's an easy transformation. So, the challenge is you leave your family behind, and they feel abandoned. They don't understand how you could be with such a young woman. They don't understand how you could miss the grandchildren's birthdays. They do feel abandoned. But today we have video chat, and it's free on WhatsApp. And, we have amazing Wi-Fi here. I think we had 300 megabytes down last time we did a speed test. You can do video chats. You can stay in touch with your family as much as you want. And that can really help bridge the gap. 20 or 30 years ago, when you left America and you came to do this, you were really divorcing your friends and your family. But today, if you want to video chat them and stay in touch, you can. So it's not the same thing as being there. But I did just get an email this morning that there was a flight from the West Coast to Manila for under $600. Now, it was like 38 hours with the layover, but prices are starting to become a little bit more like they were before COVID. You can get back home, back and forth. You can eventually bring your Filipina to the United States if that's what you want to do. Or you can make a life for yourself here like I'm doing with Chrissy. So there you have it. Those are my 7 reasons for why I left the United States and the reasons why I chose the Philippines. Thanks again from Fly Me to the Philippines. Till next time.